when I look at my social feed, to be honest, there's been a shift in the past few months. ChatGPT is taking over. Crypto is not perhaps the darling that it was in the heady lockdown days of 2020, 2021, when everyone wanted to trade random shitcoins. AI is the elephant in the room here. Is that sucking the oxygen away from VC investing in the crypto space? Like, how do you view this? I mean, you're someone who invests across the crypto world and other sectors, so I'm curious to get your take on it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I also spent like a large part of my career in AI, in specifically NLP. So seeing crypto Twitter become distracted with AI is kind of like the play to earn kind of craze in 2021. It's a bit of a herd trade. I think some people have just worked out what AI was like 6 months ago and are now putting like 50 tweet threads about it every week. So, whether they're the best people to listen to on the subject of AI, I would kind of question that one. I think to answer your question, yes, there has been obviously attention stolen away from crypto's value potential, right? Because AI's moment has kind of finally happened. It is an astonishing kind of breakthrough, what's going on with ChatGPT. And I think that it's really captivated, the world's imagination about what's possible. But a lot of this has been building for a while, right? If you were in the industry, you were kind of aware of these kind of, these transformer models and what they were pushing towards. I think it's definitely kind of opened up the kind of entrepreneurial space, because now you're seeing loads of really kind of thoughtful young people trying to build in this wave of innovation, which is exciting. I think that's a bit of a risk because ultimately crypto does need really great developers to build around ecosystems. Like ultimately that's what you need to kind of scale these L1s or L2s. You need people building around that ecosystem. So that's definitely a bit of a risk. I think on the investor side, I think there are definitely like a few kind of individuals or teams on the VC side who are probably going to get locked in another herd trade by following, the direction of travel on Twitter and probably kind of backing stuff that they don't really understand. That's, not very defensible and is probably a bit overvalued, to be honest. That's definitely going to happen. But I think that's part and parcel of a hype cycle, right? I think one thing I would say about how kind of I think AI and crypto are linked is that the philosophy of crypto is the progressive realization of open source technology for the world and democratizing access, right? And I think that in the future, it doesn't make sense to have only two entities in the world that can run huge multi-model learning systems like OpenAI and DeepMind. And that's purely a function of the compute infrastructure they have. So there are these really interesting conversations going on about distributed compute and other kind of adjacent, innovation areas around the kind of crypto and AI conversation. The only problem with that is it's a bit like taking a water gun to a machine gun fight. You need like insane, supercomputers to run this stuff. But I'm a big believer in open source technology. I think open source models are going to be a big part of the future because, like I said, it doesn't make sense to have two entities controlling everything. And I think crypto will dovetail into that in some sense. I think it's hard to spot yet where it will manifest in real terms, but I think that directionally they're linked. And yeah, I think, in the day-to-day, I think that crypto investors who've been crypto investors for a few years should still want to invest in crypto because it's still an important thing to do and there's still a lot of value to be created. So yeah, I think a few tourists will get on the train and follow the AI hype wagon, but hopefully the real ones like these guys will stay in the day-to-day business.
You want to come in on that?
Yeah, I mean, we had a discussion yesterday during dinner, and I think what is very interesting is that I personally believe VCs that are now pivoting away from crypto, focusing on AI, are actually making a huge mistake, because we've been always talking about the super use case for Web3 and the super use case for crypto, and I personally believe that generative AI is actually posing a problem and a challenge that is so substantial that only Web3 can solve, which is basically provenance to digital assets in a world where every piece of content can be altered, can be multiplied, can be sent from A to B, which is extremely dangerous from an intellectual property perspective. And what you need for that is actually an infrastructure layer in which data and content are assets that are actually trackable and traceable and that have a history, right? And this is for me the biggest value proposition and the biggest problem that we've seen so far, probably, that this industry can solve. And
well, when all content is digital, you own Penguin, Random House Publishing, right? When all content is digital in the future, you will want to have a way to enforce the provenance of that content.
Yeah. Exactly that. And the same is true for user-generated content. I remember Lex yesterday was talking about avatars, and you basically wanting to make sure that a copy of yourself is actually a copy of yourself and not abused by any third party in the internet for other purposes. This is something that the blockchain infrastructure, that Web3 can lay out to solve, and I think VCs also should actually focus on solving that problems instead of, as you said, trying to become experts in a domain that never has been their field of expertise.
I think one other thing as well, just to add, which is slightly kind of left of center, but I think Apple have done a really great job of being leaders of privacy-first technology, and what they've done recently with kind of the new iOS updates, where you can have the keys to your own iCloud, kind of like not your keys, not your data, and then also what they've done with gaming publishers and kind of allowing the user to get sovereignty over their personal data and not have that shared, has completely changed the fee model of mobile gaming. You're talking of like a $40 billion dollars a year industry getting wiped in half, basically, since those changes have come about. And what is that? Why am I bringing that up? Why is it relevant? Well, the internet as we know it was built in a certain way over the past 20 years, and I think it wasn't built with like the user sovereignty in mind. And we're seeing increasingly really meaningful strides towards each individual on the internet having sovereignty of their data and their privacy, and Apple's been a big leader of that. Now, I do think that these kind of big seismic shifts all do converge at some point, kind of digital property rights on the internet, open source software, privacy-first technology. They are coming together.
100%.